I just, the Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays for the last 2 seasons have been fascinating. I mean, I think it's really powerful to see a player that takes a brutal loss and then still shows their face and has a lot of commentary to add in. He shows a lot of his personality. He's a deep thinker. He has the book club. He's just shown layers that I don't think we see from other players. And I think that's what throws the media into such a tizzy. And I absolutely love it. I love the sounders that ESPN had this week of Aaron Rodgers is dragging America. It was so serious. And I'm like, wow, these people go all out for this man.
So Patrick and I were having a debate as to whether the Jets should sign Lamar Jackson or bring in Aaron Rodgers. And I was pro Rodgers. Patrick is more Lamar Jackson, I understand, based on the age. From your perspective, is this a good move for the Jets, bringing in Rodgers potentially? Or at least we're assuming that's going to be the landing spot for him.
Yeah, we're assuming if everything goes well, it says Green Bay is holding it up at this point, not him. It's a temporary landing spot, though. And I like what you say about Lamar Jackson because, the likelihood of him being available for more years, I'm sure at this time next year, we're going to be going through Aaron Rodgers' watch again. Is he going to play or retire? That's going to be another move. So I loved the idea of Lamar going there, but as soon as we saw all of Rodgers' pieces getting deals, Lazard, all that movement happening, we knew it was solid. And we've got till 4:00 today, Eastern time, to really start hearing Lamar Jackson offers. I'm shocked that there aren't more conversations about him. And I don't know. Do you think it's partially that he doesn't have an agent that's hurting him?
So Patrick and I had a long conversation about this, and I started my career in the agent business. And I said, look, if I'm an agent, I just go to Lamar Jackson. I say, listen, I'll represent you for free. To have you in my stable and say I represent you, even if not, I said the agent's going to be able to pick up an extra $1 million for you. At 3%, you don't want to pay $7.5 million on $250 million. I get. But just negotiate that deal. Can you, if you're Lamar Jackson, if you can negotiate $500,000, you're still coming out far ahead. And to your point, Lisa Ann Patrick, I think she brings up an excellent point. And you talked about this earlier in the week, Patrick. You said if you thought he had an agent, the deal is done. He's in Baltimore or he's somewhere else with a beautiful offer, and he's already moved on.
100%. I think you would have got that second deal 22 months ago. It just dawned on me, though, with Lisa Ann, and Lisa Ann joins us in studio there at the South Point here on Sharp Money. I know why you like Rodgers. It's that holistic lifestyle. I talked to you years ago, and all you talked about was clean eating and the holistic lifestyle and meditation. You're right there with them with this existential thought. I see the connection now.
Yeah, and I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I should not be touting Aaron Rodgers, but I just love the mindset. You're right. You remember I was going through the first leg of really becoming a minimalist and all of the things that I had changed and transformed in my life to move to an apartment in New York City. And so, yeah, you get where I'm at. But I do think Lamar Jackson would have a better chance. And I think agents represent the communication. It's about the communication. It's not that I don't trust his mom to do it, but the relationships are not built.
I think that's an excellent point. I think that one can't be overlooked. You mentioned you're a Cowboy fan. I got to ask you this real quickly. They cut my guy, Zeke Elliott. How do you feel about that with Tony Pollard coming off of the fracture? They do franchise tag him for next year. Do you like the move from Dallas's perspective?
Sad but true, I do. I just don't think Zeke had the burst. I think Zeke kind of wasted his young career a bit. We'd seen Zeke, little incidents here and there. I think he partied a bit and lived that lifestyle. And as a running back, the only way you can be a player that lasts as long as, let's say, a Frank Gore, is to be completely dedicated, to be living clean and saying, I will do all of those other things. He came in this year heavy. He looked slow. He's not old enough to be that slow, but I think there's a lack of commitment on the off season that really has affected him. Hopefully Tony Pollard heals properly, and hopefully Austin Eckler's out there. I'm screaming for that right now. He wants to make a move. All that guy does is get touchdowns. Let's get some Austin Eckler in there.
Lisa Ann's right, Amal, about partying. Remember, when Zeke held the franchise, the Cowboys hostage a few years back and got that deal, he got the deal done in Cabo Wabo. So I'm pretty sure, remember that when he just went off on his own from the team and got a deal done, an extension when he was hanging out in Cabo Wabo. So yes, I think Zeke liked the party a little bit, no?
You're 100% right. And by the way, she referenced Austin Eckler. And the reason why I want you to take note of that is the reference you made to me. I just said I wanted to be compensated. I think I'm putting up 18 touchdowns a game. That's all my point was yesterday.
Here's the problem with Eckler, and I don't know if you agree, Lisa Ann. He's 28, going to be 29. Hard to extend a running back where they start to depreciate once they get a little bit older. Now, he's a fanatical workout guy like yourself. Eckler is always posting videos on social. We were talking about social before we started the segment. Eckler's constantly posting videos working out. He had a tremendous year. He's been wildly productive out of a small college. But again, you're always concerned about giving another extension to a running back once they get close to 30.
Yeah, but I don't think we should be looking at every running back the same. I think we're really limiting the production of the later life career. There are players, and I would say maybe it's 5% of running backs that can still have another good 3 to 4 years. And look, you might only get 2 good years, but 2 good Austin Eckler years are better than 10 of a young running back who is going to be inconsistent. He plays every game. He shows up with force, and he lives the right lifestyle. So I think that's the difference with Austin Eckler. I don't know what Zeke is going to be asking, but I think it's going to be difficult for Zeke to find a home that makes him comfortable with the money that he wants.
Patrick, one other thing I just want to add on the Eckler situation. He's got 811 carries in his career. J.K. Dobbins at Ohio State had 700 carries in his career. I get college is not the same as the NFL, but to Lisa's point, he does not have the wear and tear and the tread on him that, say, Zeke does at a similar or comparable age, because I think Zeke was I think in his 6th year now. And you look at it, the wear and tear long term, it just has a profound impact on certain running backs. We've seen Zeke slow down. Remember, Alabama couldn't catch him when he played at Ohio State. Now, I think I might have a chance to catch him.
The wear and tear is not there for Eckler. Lisa Ann in studio, sports betting analyst. Remember tonight, Better Sports Network. Shout to my guy, Matt Deutsch. I love you, Matt. Better Sports Live with Lisa Ann, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Little backstory. So those that don't know, Lisa Ann has been a broadcaster for many, many years now and talking fantasy football and betting for many, many years. You mentioned you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Maybe a little background for a new audience on how you got involved, not just in fantasy, but sports betting.
Well, growing up in Pennsylvania, sports in the Northeast is everything. Your life revolves around basketball and football season. It just so happened I was born into a Dallas Cowboys family. That's really where the focus was. And, growing up in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have Red Zone. We didn't have every channel available. So when you look at a lot of the diehard Cowboys fans, a lot of it is just really a factor of your environment of having 3 games televised, and you followed those teams. So 2013, I met Matt Deutsch, who you just mentioned, and he had a fantasy football show with some Playboy Playmates for a couple of seasons before, and it had broken up. And I just so happened to have this timing where I was doing a show on SiriusXM in LA, and my producer's like, you really like to talk sports. You should go and meet Matt Deutsch. He's looking to bring someone on. I didn't know fantasy at that time at all, but all my guy friends played it. I met with Matt in May, and I said, listen, I will draft all summer. I will meet up with all of my friends and ask for all of their draft tips, but I know they're not smarter than me, and I know that I can figure this out. And so here I am, and then we get to see the wave of sports betting being legalized, state by state, and how that business has really grown. I still really have a fondness for fantasy because I love, the friendships you build in your leagues and the fact that you kind of drift apart in the summer and then you really start to smack talk before the draft in August. And I love the relationships you get being in multiple leagues.
Patrick, the one thing.
The new wave is betting, and you're smart to get on the betting train. Go ahead, Amal.
No, I was going to say you and I are from the Midwest, and you grew up in Pennsylvania. Remember the annoying thing when they had the blackout rule and they'd have to wait 24 hours? They might lift it so if the game sells out, you could actually see your home team. My God.
If it wasn't sold out at home, the Lions were never on TV because obviously the Lions always stunk, but I didn't get to see Barry Sanders if it wasn't sold out. It was the dumbest rule of all time.
Oh, my God. In Cleveland, we had the same thing. You couldn't sell out that product ever. You couldn't give away tickets.
And you had to sit around the radio and wait to see because it wasn't going to be printed in the paper and there was no internet. So you sat around the radio. Is this game going to be on? What are we going to do?
I know. It really is wild. By the way, you just mentioned when you grew up. So I can bring this up, right? It's like the most fascinating. How do you reverse age? How do you age backwards? I don't know if you mention your age anymore, but it's whenever I hear you discussing your age, it's almost a mind deaf. Would you reveal how old you are?
I will be 51 on May 9th.
That's
not
dumb.
Quite as exciting as 50 was. 50 was very exciting.
By the way, you've got to be a vegan.
I do eat 95% plant-based.
I know by the skin, man. You can tell. I'm telling you.
No dairy. No dairy.
100% no dairy.
No
it's
dairy.
the inflammation from the dairy that kills you.
And I do cryotherapy regularly. Like I just found my spot that I'm going to do cryo at here in Vegas tomorrow. All of those things.
I do it.
Yeah, but
come
thank
to
you.
Come to VEASAN for the betting knowledge. Leave with dairy and inflammation knowledge. And we'll come back with Lisa Ann here on Sharp Money. And I have I guess I would say a road trip or a field trip for Dustin and Amal that I want to mention because this Friday, Sapphire Live at Las Vegas for March Mayhem, Lisa Ann's going to be performing. And I think Amal and Dustin should go together. We come back more with Lisa Ann next here, Sharp Money. I mentioned it's the calm before the storm because you've got 16 round of 64 getting going tomorrow. First four continues tonight. Lisa Ann tonight. Better Sports Network, Better Sports Live, 7 to 10 Eastern Time. We used to have her book. Remember, Dustin, we had her first book. I believe it was The Life, laying around our office. And he read it front to back. You got to give him props, Lisa Ann. And The Life Back is the second book. This Friday, Lisa Ann will be at Sapphire, Las Vegas for March Mayhem. And I want to start there. And by the way, the conversation during the break was not about college basketball. It was about cashew nut cheese. We were talking about plant-based diets, which all three of us in some random way are involved in. So we were talking, Amal Shah, cashew nut cheese during the break.
Well, listen, everybody's trying to look a little bit younger. I just don't have the spare cash to be able to spend it on things to help me out. I got to take advantage of what I can do, and going plant-based is one of those things.
Well, I got to tell you, like I just looked out and saw the Steak and Shake. Like the temptation of bad food around here is really real.
You're not lying about that, Patrick. That's the one advantage you have there being in Hermosa Beach. You walk out your door and you see everybody's in shape. So you're like, I don't want to sit there and eat this or that. That's going to be bad for me.
You completely get guilted into not eating and just trying to get normal. Like normal around here are beach volleyball players that are 6'5" and in perfect shape. So I walk out the door. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably intermittent fast today, which means not eat because I need to equal whatever the hell is happening over here, which I could never do. By the way, do we have breaking news NFL with Juju Smith-Schuster here, Amal Shah?
We do. He signs a 3-year deal for $33 million with the New England Patriots. Lisa Ann, you mentioned about social media. He is huge on TikTok, among other things. From your perspective, how does a player who is so interested in being out there socially go into a situation with a guy like Bill Belichick?
Well, that's going to be a real good challenge, and I love it so much because it is a great question. We saw Tom Brady come out of his shell and actually start to utilize social media once he was no longer there. And this is a fit that is, I'm not sure how I feel about Mac Jones. I don't know if he has the arm to really take advantage of Juju's strengths, right? So there's a battle there too. There's two quarterbacks in the Northeast that I'm just not sure about. When I look at the Giants and when I look at the Patriots, I'm like, maybe I haven't seen enough yet. Maybe they haven't had enough targets to really utilize what they have, or maybe I'm right. They're mediocre.
Patrick, I think she brings up a great point. I just want to follow up one thing. You mentioned Daniel Jones. I was very anti this signing because of the dollar amount. I don't think Daniel Jones is that good. I think Patrick and I were on the same page on that one. Where do you come out paying a player who had one good game against Minnesota who couldn't stop a bloody nose down the stretch?
I agree with you. I mean, that was a desperate move, and I think it's all about timing, right? This isn't a rich quarterback class where everyone's going to get to take advantage of. There's three everybody wants. Great. You're not going to get one of those three. How often does a rookie quarterback come in and really show, look what Zach Wilson did last year? Nothing. So I think it was a circumstance situation where Daniel Jones really benefited from that. Of the Giants saying, well, this is as good as it's going to get. That kind of theory of like the enemy is better than the enemy you don't know. But I don't think he's good enough with 15 touchdowns on a season to generate that kind of money. And then you franchise tag Saquon Barkley, who is your best player.
I have a request. Good breakdown, guys. I have a request for you, Lisa Ann, who, by the way, just on Twitter has 1.9 million followers. And you were talking about the importance of social media in 2023. We could use your help at VEASAN. Could you run our social for us? Are you cool with that if we hire you to run our social account?
It's ironic that you say this, but I'm in the process of starting a social media business. And I'm building my team right now. The mission statement is together. The branding is done. The logo is done. The domain is mine. Because it is something that I realize I've gotten really good at, and other people. It's a lot to really understand. So yes, I will make a pitch to you, and I will do this for you both.
It's much appreciated.
I have a follow-up on that. You can find us at VEASAN Live, by the way. Shameless plug. How many followers on Instagram, quickly, and then I have a follow-up.
4.4 million.
Okay, not that many. Brady. So just to be clear, when I see Brady post something like those thirst traps that he's posting, which is freaking weird for a dude my age, no offense. But when I see him posting stuff like that on social, that's not him. He's not tweeting and Instagramming, right? He has a team, Lisa Ann. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but he might, he probably does have a team that does everything. Like, I don't let anybody touch my Instagram. That's just me. But I have a team that helps me run everything else. And I think it is really helpful because it helps you engage. It also helps you, get out of too many negative comments. We don't really need to be exposing ourselves to everybody's opinion. You got to take the good with the bad, but you don't have to be down that rabbit hole. So that first thirst trap, it was so great to see everyone else's responses, like Gronk, all of these different responses. But when we go back to Juju, I wonder if we're going to see a dramatic shift because he puts on his uniform, he's on TikTok, he does things that no player has ever done, and it's also got to be time consuming and a little bit distracting when he's supposed to be at practice, and that's not the Belichick way.
That's the biggest thing, right, guys? When you look at it, to me, how do you fit into a system where they want everyone to be kind of the same regimen? It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. This to me, I don't know if it's going to work out particularly well, but this would be a great opportunity for Juju, who's still very young, to kind of revitalize his career, because I know A.J. Brown doesn't think too highly of him.
At the real Lisa Ann on Twitter, I encourage you to go over there and give her a follow. You can get takes on plant-based diets and also betting advice as well. 1.9 million people. By the way, I do have a request for you. Professional sports handicapper Steve Fezzik, who's won the Super Contest twice. He's a good friend of the show. He is a massive fan of yours. Could you follow him back on Twitter? He texted me the special request.
I most definitely will. You just send it to Dustin. Okay, Dustin will send it to me. I'll give him a follow.
Dustin, take care of that. Just to follow up, then I want to get to the college basketball. Who are the best athletes right now, the most efficient athletes on social?
Juju really has to be one. Gronk has become truly fantastic. Austin Eckler really keeps himself in that just lane. Aaron Rodgers is fantastic. There's so many now, but I think smart players, like I've always loved Kawhi Leonard's theory. He doesn't do social media. He's like, I play in the NBA. I don't need the noise. Like, he stayed focused on that. Didn't even hire a team to do it for him. He's like, this is just what I'm doing. And I admire that. That's somebody saying that doesn't work for me. It's going to be a distraction. We know that when players get on the team plane, the first thing they do is start trolling. We learned this from KD with all of his burner accounts. Like, they're seeing commentary. That's not healthy. I don't think that's what they should be doing. And I think that's why players 20 years ago were kind of a little bit more committed to the game, didn't take as many rest days. The whole theory of how the NBA has changed is a lot of the extracurricular things that they are doing that are consuming them.
Do you think from your perspective it's a benefit? You mentioned how it impacts them in terms of the game, but in terms of your own marketability, it's got to be a huge advantage because now you have a reach to people globally that you may have never been able to contact with. And we've talked about this on the show, Patrick. Cristiano Ronaldo is one of my favorite athletes. And I always say this about Ronaldo, to his greatness, forget on the pitch, but he understands what he means to people.
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, for the players nowadays, is it a benefit long term, or do you think, as Kawhi pointed out, it could be detrimental to them?
I think it's a little bit of both. You have to have a strong personality to know what you're going there for. If you're going there like Ronaldo does, to engage with his fans, to share his love, to message back, that's a very different thing. But it's important for their post-career branding. This is how we see what their personality is like. I think this is what gets them a gig quicker when it comes to being in broadcast or whatever it is they might be doing. I think Austin Eckler's been so great about loving fantasy football and being engaged with a fantasy football community. That just opened the door for him to continue something thereafter. We've got the Kelsey brothers with their podcast that I think is fantastic. So we're seeing personality like we never saw before, and I think it can be a really beautiful thing for players.
We got Joe Lunardi coming up. So before we say goodbye, you have Bama going all the way, but you said you don't feel great about Brandon Miller.
I got Houston and Bama at the final stretch of it all. And it's just, we get in this tricky situation where this Brandon Miller news story is such a question mark, right? But we also know that he is the best player in the entire tournament. So the tournament would have been the same without him. And for all of us who watched Aaron Hernandez series, every documentary that came out, we're like, this is how this begins. We allow people to get away with things, and then it just gets bigger and bigger. And that's what concerns me about it. It's a blemish, and it's a very sad story as well. And just to be connected to it is negative.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.